Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got you guys an update on the biggest severe weather outbreak of 2024, which is going to be taking place across the Central Plains today. We have a lot of things to talk about with potentially life-saving information that's coming out right now. So let's go right into the video. All right, so thank you all for joining me here on this Monday afternoon. We have a lot of things to talk about as we got upgraded this morning to a high level 5 out of 5 risk for severe weather, and very rarely do we see one of them every year, and most of the time we don't even see any of them in 1 year. But today we have a high risk, so the SPC is maxed out, and it's all because of this big disturbance that you can currently see on satellite. So let's make it my color yellow here, and I can show you guys. I mean, this is a textbook kind of setup here with this nasty negatively tilted trough that's moving through. But look at all this convection that's already ongoing here. We're just gonna see round after round after round of storms that are gonna fire across the region. But this is your big storm. You got low pressure that's pretty much right here, centered over uh the 2 states corner or the 4 states corner of Wyoming, Nebraska, and South Dakota. It's like where all the borders meet. That's where your low pressure is set up right now. Okay, and so this is really what's going to be causing our big severe weather outbreak. You can see the motion of all these storms is pretty much to the north, so that means that you have a very big moisture return, very big pull of moisture that's pulling up into that low pressure center. That means you have a strengthening storm system, and that's definitely going to help for that severe threat. So this is really not good. Just in terms of any saving grace for this storm, but it really honestly to me just looks like we're not going to get one. And I'll show you why in a minute. So we go over to our alerts at the moment. What you've got in the yellow shade, you do just have a tornado watch. This was issued just a few minutes ago, or at about 1 p.m. right at the time of filming this video. It's about 1 p.m. Eastern time. We have a tornado watch in the yellow shade going out from northern Kansas through central Nebraska. All right, that's where you have the first convection that's going on in the afternoon hours. That's what we're talking about and looking at on satellite. All right, you also do have red flag warnings in the hot pink shade. That's going out for the entire state of New Mexico. You've got portions of western Texas, also portions of southwestern Kansas and southeastern Colorado, all in that red flag warning. You have high wind warnings in the gold shade, and you have high wind watches in the brown shade. Winter weather advisories in the purple shade, winter storm warnings in the pink shade. Yes, there is still some late season snowfall in the mountains out there in the western United States. That's behind all this with that big cold front that's kind of pushing the storm off to the east. That's meeting up with the warm front. So there's a lot of different moving pieces to the setup for this storm. But you also do have a flood watch going out for northeastern Oklahoma. I think that should at least expand because we're obviously going to get the flooding downpours with these major supercells. So that's definitely going to stay for, I would really put it for the entire day. But for now, that's, out there for just northeastern Oklahoma. But I do expect that to expand. But otherwise, it's pretty quiet. But this map is going to look very different as we're going to get tons of tornado watches, severe thunderstorm watches, tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings. It's all going to be right in here in the central United States. That's where pretty much everything is about to go down. Okay, so we move over to the SPC, and yeah, we have a high risk for severe weather. So this is a level 5 out of 5 risk. This is the highest the SPC goes. I mean, this is very concerning. This is very scary. Okay, this is literally the highest the SPC goes, and we very rarely get this once a year. But this does include central Oklahoma going up through south central Kansas. Unfortunately, it does include a lot of major cities. Those cities include Oklahoma City, Norman, Oklahoma, Edmond, Oklahoma, Midwest City, Oklahoma, and Moore, Oklahoma. Okay, a lot of those towns and cities have been directly impacted by severe weather in the past few days. This is probably going to be the highest and most dangerous threat of severe weather that you're going to be in if you live in one of those areas. Okay, but we could have a very, very just devastating severe weather outbreak if these people do. If I swear, if not like if like not only like 75% of a city, takes the warning. There's a tornado warning, which there will be tornado warnings inside the high risk. But if there's more than 1,000 people or whatever, okay, and then they don't take the warning seriously, you're gonna have people that are gonna be injured and people that are gonna be killed. Okay, so I'm just saying right now, this is a very, very dangerous situation. But that includes those cities out there. That comes up to a total population of just under 2 million people. So there you go. A fairly populated area. That's in the high risk. That's a level 5 out of 5 risk in the pink shade. Okay, surrounding areas of that, you have the moderate risk. That was what we had yesterday. That's what we got upgraded to the high risk. But surrounding areas of that, you're in the moderate risk. That's a level 4 to 5 risk. That's including Tulsa, Oklahoma, Wichita, Kansas, Lawton, Oklahoma, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and Hutchinson, Kansas. That's where you have not that basically just means that you don't have the highest threat of severe weather possible. But I mean, you can't just say that because I'm not in the high risk, I'm not going to get severe weather. You can't say that, okay? So if you're in the moderate risk, I mean, it's not like there's a chance that you're going to get severe weather. You are certainly going to get severe weather. This is a regional severe weather outbreak that we're talking about. So even if you're not on the high risk, you've got to take this seriously, okay? You've got to take this seriously. Listen to me. All right. But that comes out to a total population of 2.3 million people. And then you have the enhanced risk surrounding that. That's level 3 to 5 risk in the orange shade. That's including Kansas City, Missouri, Lincoln, Nebraska, Overland Park, Kansas, Springfield, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. That's a very broad area coming out to a total population of over 5.5 million people. All right. The slight risk, that's including that's a pretty broad area. That the slight risk is for areas that are we're pretty certain that some areas will in the slight risk will definitely see severe weather. We're just not there's not as high of a certainty that we're gonna get severe weather in the slight risk. I would say if you want to be concerned, I would say you need to be if you're in the enhanced risk, moderate risk, or high risk, you have to be concerned today. Slight risk, even though it's not that high of a risk, you still have to pay attention to the weather because there will be tornadoes today, severe thunderstorms today, but potentially destructive severe thunderstorms today that are going to be outside of the enhanced, moderate, and high risk. So even if you're not in one of those risk areas, you got to take this seriously. I don't care if you're in the marginal risk. I don't care if you don't even have a risk for severe weather. If there is one warning for a tornado, a severe thunderstorm, you gotta take it. Okay, you gotta get away from windows. If you're under tornado warning, you gotta get in. You gotta get in the lowest level of your home, most interior room of your home. Maybe like a basement or a storm cellar. But today's really gonna put us to the test to really make sure that everybody knows what's going to be happening. But the marginal risk surrounds everything else. That includes a very big and a very populated area. We're not going to go through that whole area, but that's in the green shade. All right, here's tornado threats for today. We have a 30% tornado threat. The last time we had a 30% tornado threat was on March 31st. And I'll tell you guys, I made an update on March 31st, and that day was literally blowing me away. And this is an equivalent threat to March 31st. Okay, so I'm not saying that it's going to come out to as intense as March 31st. It might as well could. Okay, because we have the same level of threat, but we have a 30% hatch tornado threat, which means there's a 30% chance that within 25 miles of a given location, we're going to see an EF2 to EF5 tornado. This situation could honestly support a more Oklahoma kind of situation. By all means, I'm not saying that I'm definitely not saying here right now that we're gonna see a more Oklahoma EF5 tornado. I'm not saying that right now. I'm just saying that this kind of setup is can definitely support a kind of situation like that unfolding here. All right, but we have a 30% tornado threat. That's in the pink shade. In the red shade, you have a 15% hatch tornado threat. Okay, that's including areas just surrounding the 30%, and then you got the 10% hatch, which we usually see which we've been used to this week and last week because we've been dealing with so many enhanced risks in a row. So that's what we've been dealing with. Look how far up we are. We just went from seeing like a 10% hatched every day to now jumping to a 30% hatched tornado threat. Okay, so this is going to be a big upgrade from what we've seen in the past days. With the 10% hatch is marked in the yellow shade. You have a 5% risk for tornadoes in the brownish red shade, and in the green shade, you have a 2% risk for seeing tornadoes. All right, so this is that big wind shade, or sorry, the damaging wind gust. Damaging wind gust threat. Okay, you have a 45% chance. That's in the pink shade. That's actually pushed off to the east, and that's interesting. And I think that's because you're gonna get tornadic supercells at first, but once they, stop being discrete, they're gonna form that line. They're gonna form that QLCS. I think that's what the SPC is catching on. So I think that's why they push the 45% chance for damaging wind gusts off to the east. Okay. So whenever you get these risk these risks like percentages. They all go up to 45% or more. Okay, that's when you get the high risk. So you have a 45% chance of seeing damaged wind gusts within 25 miles of a point in the pink shade. You also do have a 30% chance in the red shade, 15% in the yellow shade, 5% in the brown shade. All right. But you can see the cities down here that are inside of each risk area. All right, so you can pause the video right now if you want to go check that out. Go back to the tornado threat. All right, you can pause it right now if you want to take a look at what cities are in there. And then we move over to the damaging hail outlook, okay? This is a 45% chance of damaging hail. Notice how it's back off to the west. That's because when you get tornadic supercells, you're going to get large hail. Guys, we're talking about softball-size hail. This is going to be massive, destructive hail. I know it's scary, guys, but this is going to be happening, okay? With the type of supercells and the type of setup that we have, we could be talking about up to DVD-size hail, which is absolutely just massive, okay? But we're gonna get destructive hailstones in the pink shade. That's a 45% chance. In the red shade, you have a 30% chance, and in the 15% chance, you do still have that hatched risk marked in the shaded area. So I think still in the 15% chance, even if you're not in the hatched area, you could still get a softball size hailstone. All right, so we got potentially massive, or I shouldn't even say potential. We're gonna get massive hail today. And then the 5%, that's in the brown shade, that's surrounding everything that's going on out there. All right, day 2. What's going to be pretty much of the leftovers of these storms? I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay for tomorrow. I think these storms are going to slowly start to die out, but we have a very broad slight risk. I could still see, though, a potential enhanced risk come up in this area. I don't want to say anything, and say that everything's set in stone now. But I just don't have nearly as much faith in this, obviously, than today, but also for other days. We have a 5% tornado threat. You have a 15% wind threat, and then you do have a hatched 15% hail threat. So I believe if any one of these threat levels get upgraded, I think you're going to get an enhanced risk. So yeah, I mean, this would be probably considered a high-end slight risk. So I could definitely see this getting upgraded to an enhanced risk. I just don't have as much certainty as what we're talking about as far as day 3 goes. Day 3, this looks this looks so concerning that I could even right now just say that I'm expecting this to get upgraded to a moderate risk. I think we're going to get another moderate risk, believe it or not, somewhere inside this area, okay, inside that enhanced risk. Because, you just don't usually see broad enhanced risk like this. You can still get a broad enhanced risk, obviously. It's common sense for that. But I'm just saying that it's so big that I feel like you almost have to put a moderate risk somewhere inside of that. So that's day 3. So you can tell it's a high-end threat because you're at a 30% hatched chance for seeing severe thunderstorms. So if any one of these levels get upgraded, you get a moderate risk. So I can honestly almost certainly tell you that this is going to get upgraded to a moderate risk. Because remember, this is day 3, so this is 2 days. This has 2 days to become upgraded and changed. But so far, you have a very big enhanced risk going out for Indianapolis, Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, St. Louis, Missouri, and Cincinnati, Ohio. That goes all the way from far eastern Dallas all the way up through the Ohio Valley, all the way up to extreme southwestern Ohio. That is just an absolutely massive risk area coming out to a total population of over 21 million people. This guy's... I've been talking about it. I've been talking about how I've been keeping my eye very closely on this one specific day. I told you guys that I do think we're going to get up to a very high risk. Well, here we go. We have a very concerning, very large enhanced risk, and I don't want to, give you guys any SPC, risk for when this will be day 1, but I do expect this to get upgraded to a moderate risk sometime in the next 3 days. All right, but day 4 and day 8. All right, day 4, you still have a risk for severe weather. This starts to rebound back into Texas, southeastern Texas. You have a 15% slight risk. You also do have a secondary one that's going up for the East Coast here, going really from southern New Jersey through Delmarva and then down through the Carolina coastline, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and then eventually ends right in the middle of central Georgia. All right, that's a pretty big area as well, so we'll have to keep our eyes out for this one. That's a very populated area coming out for these both these slight risks. Almost 50 million people. It's just absolutely insane how many days in a row we're just getting of just very, very high risks for severe weather. But we have a legit high risk, like literally level 5 out of 5 high risk today. on the SPC. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So let's break this down. We'll start out with the NAM 3 kilometer model. We're looking at the south central United States. This is 9 a.m. today. You already have showers and thunderstorms that are starting to be produced, but you don't really get that push or like the just the start of that severe weather event until 4 p.m. 4 p.m. There you go. You have initiation here of your storms into Kansas. There you have a lot of storms. It's not impressive yet, but these will definitely be tornadic soon enough. But these will start out most likely producing damage, wind gusts, large hail. That's going to be right around 4 p.m. Eastern time, so about 3 p.m. your time. If you're in Kansas, central Kansas, watch out for that. But watch as you see more and more storms and supercells start to creep up through Oklahoma now. Okay, and this line gets a little bit more pronounced. This is going to be producing damage, wind gusts, tornadoes. I think all threats are on the table here for areas of central Kansas through really eastern Nebraska. But down here in Oklahoma, that's where that tornado threat's going to be high. I think Oklahoma's going to be the big state that's going to see the tornadoes today. I mean, these are very, very intense supercells that are reforming. You see these little showers, these little spots of green. Those are all the beginning stages of supercells. So any one of these could definitely go tornado warn and even drop a tornado. They will drop tornadoes. All right, but you have just at this point a massive line of storms, and it's approaching that area where we have the 45% chance of seeing damaging winds. So at this point, you think that this tornado threat will at least slowly start to die off, but you still got tornadic supercells. I'm telling you, between what we're looking at, between like this 11 p.m. Eastern, so between really 7 p.m. Or really 6 p.m. Eastern, all the way to 11 p.m. Eastern is when you have the prime time environment for tornadoes. But at this point, I mean, you're starting to see that tornado threat slowly diminish. Okay, so it's very slowly diminishing, but I mean, you still see these storms down here into eastern Oklahoma. These still will be producing tornadoes. You're going to get tornadoes after midnight. I'm almost certain that you're going to get tornadoes after midnight for areas of eastern Oklahoma. Then that'll go into portions of Kansas and then into Arkansas and into Missouri. All right, so this is after midnight. You can see we still have. You're looking for discrete storms, little bubbly spots. You don't when you're looking for tornadoes, you don't look for this line of storms that you get up here into like northern. That's the wrong drawing tool. Let me get my marker. There we go. You don't look for this kind of line of storms that's moving up through northern Missouri and southern Iowa if you're looking for tornadoes. That's called a QLCS, quasi-linear convective system. That's basically a line of storms, or even like a squall line that just produces very, very damaging wind gusts. These are still severe thunderstorms, but when you're looking for tornadoes, you're looking for little bubbly looking kind of spots if you're looking at the NAM, and that's what you see down here. These are your tornado producers that are still down to the south of all this. That's still into eastern Oklahoma, southwestern Missouri. These will still be producing tornadoes, and this is well after midnight. So you're talking about a very overnight threat for tonight. And this high risk is definitely going to be there's going to be a nocturnal tornado outbreak. So this is pretty much the worst case scenario if you're looking for a tornado outbreak. Because not only do we have a high risk, the SPC is literally maxed out, which we don't usually see once in a year. But number two, this is going to be happening while people are asleep. Okay, so I know it's going to wake you up. I know. But I want you to keep your phone on full blast volume. I want you to put on the radio or whatever. But when you're sleeping, if you are in the high risk, enhanced risk, or moderate risk, or whatever, I mean, I beg you to, especially if you're in the moderate or high risk, I beg you just to turn on that radio, turn on the sound on your TV, on your phone, because if a tornado warning goes off and you don't hear it in your town and a tornado demolishes your house, that's when you could die. Okay, it's so brutal and it's so sad and so scary that I have to say this. Okay, but it's true. All right, if people don't get the warning, there's going to be a lot of fatalities. There's going to be a lot of injuries, and that's what we want to avoid. But just because of these tornadoes occurring at night, these are the precautions that we have to take. All right, but finally things start to slow down as this moves off to the east, and then this really starts to become just that defined line of storms. This is when you're going to get very strong winds that are going to be potentially over hurricane force. maybe a tornado or two still possible down into southern Oklahoma after like 2 a.m. Eastern time. Okay, but this is really going to form a QLCS after this moves out of Oklahoma, and then that slowly starts to fizzle out and move off to the east. So I'll play through this again. I'll actually press play here so you can see this whole thing run out. Your timestamps, I'll circle your time up here. This is what you're looking at. I believe this is in Eastern time, so just take away an hour from this. So this is an hour later of when the storm should hit. All right. But yeah, that's gonna be the full run of the latest NAM. All right, and so you can't even really say with a high risk that one model is showing a little bit more aggressive. I mean, they're all just going to be maxing out the SBC. Everything is coming together to form a textbook and just very dangerous situation. But we look at now the cape levels here on the NAM. We look at basically this is just all the thunderstorm juice, the convection allowing potential energy. I mean, you can see we're already getting above 4,000 joules per kilograms. These are ridiculous levels of cape rising into Texas, into Oklahoma. And so you can see, regardless, everywhere else, if you're in the orange shade, you're talking about cape levels in excess of 2,800 joules per kilograms. That is more than enough to really support those strong storms. But I would say the cape levels that are going to support a high risk are definitely going to be the ones over 4,000 joules per kilograms. So you look for areas that are not only in the high risk, but also that are going to be receiving those high levels of cape. All right, and that turns out to be Oklahoma. So to me, this looks like Oklahoma's going to be the target. But remember, you still have that high risk extending just into southern portions of Kansas. So I mean, you can't really ignore the fact that even though the bulk of Kansas and even parts of Kansas that are in the high risk won't be seeing 4,000 joules per kilograms of cape, you can't say that you're not going to get as high of a risk in Oklahoma because I mean when you get a high risk, it's just like everything is. There's like nothing that's going to really slow this thing down unless there's like a limited amount of cap. Like if there's cap in the atmosphere, which basically prevents storms from getting that lift. So when you get storms, you get high cloud tops. So I mean, obviously we're not looking from south to north, but to show you, this is the ground level. All right, storms want to build up as far north in the as high in the atmosphere as possible. Okay, so let's say you get a storm like a few thousand feet in the air up here, and it starts to grow. But if you get cap, you'll get a layer of cap that's pretty high in the atmosphere. That's going to prevent the storm from getting up here. So let's say all the thunderstorm juice, everything that the thunderstorm needs is up here. The cap, which is drawn in this line here, it's going to slow it down. It's going to prevent it from getting to that area. The reason why we have the high risk is because there's very limited cap, so you're not going to see a lot of that. Which just basically helps the storms get higher up in the atmosphere and develop those higher cloud tops. All right, but finally, when does the cape kind of fizzle out? It's going to be after midnight, but still, you still have cape levels that are getting well over 3,000 joules per kilograms. Remember, that is plenty enough to spark severe storms. And then again, tomorrow, with that slight risk, and then even later into the week, into that enhanced risk day, you still see those 4,000 joules per kilograms of cape start to set up, everywhere across the region. But it's really going to be a dangerous few days of severe weather, but especially today is what we're concerned about. All right, so we move on to the significant tornado parameter. We're looking at the HRRR here. All right, I believe we can look at the 12Z now. Yeah, we're all the way up to the 16Z. So let's look at the 12Z here. This is the 12Z HRRR for your significant tornado parameter. All right. So let me refresh that. All right, here we go. So this is the 12Z HRRR, and you can see. Oh, sorry about that. Let's pull this back up. Oh gosh, there we go. All right, so we're going to be looking at the 12Z HRRR for significant tornado parameter, which basically just shows us where model guidance shows the potential for at least the highest potential for significant tornado, which is EF2 to EF5 tornado within 25 miles of a point. And boom, as soon as we get to what is this? This is about 2 a.m. So this is pretty much about 1 a.m. in the morning. You already maxed out the significant tornado parameter. Let me put myself down here so you can see. We're already past it. When you see levels that are already past 10, it's maxed out. All right, and you can see anywhere inside this blue, you're maxing out the significant tornado parameter. This just goes to show that there's no way we're not gonna get an EF2 tornado or even higher, like an EF3, EF4, EF5. I mean, when you have the significant tornado parameter maxing out on every model run, we can go through every single one of these models, and I tell you that every single one of them would max this out. That's why we have the high risk. So, I mean, it's almost like there's no point in showing this. It's just going to show just how incredibly dangerous this setup is and how textbook this is. I mean, anywhere inside of this, we're getting up to a 12, 13, 14, and, even higher. I'm sure somewhere in here, I would say there could be even up to a 20. All right, but honestly, it doesn't matter how high it is because we already know this is maxed out. And I just wanted to show you guys that, it's just incredibly dangerous. But once again, this shows it going down in Oklahoma. So Oklahoma just keeps coming up, and that's where the high risk is as well. So I'll tell you guys, just wrapping this up, that I think Oklahoma is going to be the big target today. So if you're a storm chaser watching this video, I know you already have plans, but I'm telling you, chasing Oklahoma. All right, Oklahoma's going to be the target. There's going to be tornadic supercells that are going to drop violent tornadoes in Oklahoma today. Still, though, in the high risk and the moderate risk, you can't ignore that in Kansas. Even if you're in Kansas, you still have some spots that get up to 4,000 joules per kilograms. You still have some spots where they're maxing out the significant tornado parameter. They're still pretty much equally at as high of a risk in Kansas as there is in Oklahoma. It's just not as widespread. All right. But I mean, you gotta stay safe today. You gotta make sure that you have multiple ways to receive warnings, not just one. Because if you have one way to receive a warning and it fails for some reason, it just doesn't work. All right, how are you going to get the warning? How are you going to know that a tornado warning is in effect? And who knows? Maybe we could have a PDS today. Maybe we could even have a tornado emergency today. So what if a tornado emergency, is in your town, in effect for your town, and you don't know it? I mean, just think of how bad a situation that could be. And even if you're in the high risk, I'm not saying it's certain that you're going to get a tornado. It's actually a pretty low chance that you're going to see a tornado in your neighborhood. I'm just saying that, it's just you can't really take any risks because in the general area, there's a very high chance that potentially multiple very strong to violent tornadoes will occur in the high risk. So finally, we just look at the GFS. We'll actually go pretty quickly through this, but we're going to look at the GFS in the next couple of days. Look how strong this storm is. It's a 979 millibar low, which is so strong for, spring severe weather season setups. But that pushes off to the east, and then you get that rebound of that low pressure center. It almost like remakes itself. It regenerates itself. But going out farther into spring, I think we're going to calm down. I think it might even enter a drought. Okay, so that'll be good that we finally get an end to our big severe wake. But I'll tell you right now, this is going to be the biggest severe weather outbreak of 2024. I'm just going to say it right now. I mean, you can argue with me as much as you want in the comments, but I'm going to say it right now. This is going to be the biggest severe weather outbreak of 2024. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. Please, 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 God, please protect everyone today. All right, and guys, I mean, if you're in the high risk, if you're in the moderate risk, you just got to make sure that you are taking this seriously, that you're checking your local news stations, you're checking out my community tab because I will post crucial updates on there. But please be sure to have multiple ways to receive warnings, and please be sure to have notifications on, and be sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.